We are talking all about wholesaling, and tonight's kind of cool. We're just going to go ahead and jump into what you need to be doing right now and 2024 to get the absolute best list for the best strategies to get the best deals in wholesaling in 2024. So, what I want to do is really focus on what is working now. And today, we're particularly going to focus on things that aren't often talked about. Some of them are, but I want to talk about the things that are working right now. So, my name's Rick Ginn. You guys know me, and let's just jump into it. I'm going to take the first section and just teach you all about these lists. And some of these lists you're not going to know as much about. And what I'm going to do is expand into it. So let's get into it. And I've also put in the link in the top comment for me. If you guys want to do a one-on-one mastermind, I'm going to get through this rather quickly today. And I would love to spend time talking to you guys one-on-one, help you out with your real estate, any of your wholesaling needs. And I don't care if you need someone to kind of get in your head, someone to talk to. If you want to get help, today is the day to do it. We are talking all about the best strategies for 2024. And I don't talk about like the average stuff. Everybody knows about a high equity list. That's what, well, that's not what no, we're not talking about today. We are going to talk about the little known list that not everyone's doing. And that's what we have to do. So let's just jump into it. Now, it's important. I have no order for these, okay? What I do is I take the lists that are working in our current business, the ones that work with people all over the country, and the ones that are actually getting deals that I'm getting checks from, and I want to share those with you today. So I'm going to start out with the easy one to warm you up. And this is kind of a no-brainer one, but honestly, this list worked 21 years ago. And it works phenomenally today. And in today's market, with an insane real estate market going on, we need to find people that have motivation. So the best thing to do is find the most targeted list that you can absolutely do. And my first and most favorite one is it's always going to be code violations. I have never stopped on this list. I would call it one of my most favorites. You guys know I love probates. I'm not going to go over probates today because that's like a given factor with me. But code violations is this list that is created by your city and sometimes your county for people that don't comply. And all cities have codes that you have to meet. So like in my city, if the grass is over 12 inches high, that's a code violation. And I know them all by heart. And here's the ones I go after. Any type of landscaping, which is going to be high grass, high landscaping, high bushes like that. Deferred maintenance, meaning there's like the gutters are hanging down, or the house looks like crap. In my cities, the ones mostly I deal with is if you leave boarded up windows, especially right now we're just ending up the hurricane season. If you leave them boarded up, you get a code violation for it. And then my favorite one always is the blue tarp roof. I think it's more of a Southeast thing because when they put the blue tarps on there, and everyone starts out, I'm just going to put it up there temporarily, and they leave it up there permanently. And you'll see the blue tarp turns kind of white and shredded. Those are my absolute favorite deals. And nobody starts out doing that. The reality is these people need help because if they don't fix these violations, they get fines imposed against them and they record it against the house. So it can be as little as $50 a day. I see it as high as $100, $150 a day. Heck, I've seen grass cut violations sneak up to $30,000, which I think is absolutely ludicrous. And here's the crazy part with code violations, guys, I want you guys to understand this. Say you let your grass get too high, and this happens a lot. And a lot of the probate deals I get, the grass gets too high because someone's not living in the property. And if someone's not there checking on it, the grass can easily get high because someone forgot to pay the landscaper to cut the lawn. Here's the deal is when the person finds out about it, they send somebody out to cut the grass and they think it's all said and done. On code violations, did you know you actually have to reach out to the city? You have to have them call and re-inspect it. You usually have to meet them out there, and then they have to actually sign off on and give you a letter. So if you get a code violation, you cut the grass, 3 years later, you can find out I have tens of thousands of dollars of liens against this property, and it's all for one grass cut. This happens all the time. This is how governments works. It's absolutely crazy. The burden is always going to be on the homeowner. And I find once properties get way out of line, they typically have problems. So especially if there's a death in the family, or somebody moved out of town, or it's a rental property going bad, this is why code violations are very powerful. And I find once somebody winds up on the code violation list once, they usually wind up being habitual offenders. And you want to actually keep them in mind when you do that, guys. I'm telling you, code violations, I know this isn't anything new you want to know, but I'm telling you, I've been doing this 21 years. If I only had one list to pull outside of probates, I would always go after code violations because where there's smoke, there's fire. And That leads us into our next one. A really nice segue there. You guys kind of know where I'm going with this. Fire damage properties. Now, these are not my favorite ones, but to be honest with you, a lot of wholesalers avoid these. Why? Because it freaks them out. Nobody likes to deal with burnt property. And to be honest with you, it is harder to find a buyer for these types of properties. But that should be the thing that should attract you to these types of properties, because I'm telling you, we need to find challenges on properties. We are not going on MLS looking for perfect property stuff that's going to work perfect. You've got to find challenges. Now, here's the really cool part. When I first did fire damage properties, I got to be honest with you, I was horrified. I'm like, how the heck am I ever going to find a property? And my first two properties I dealt with, one was completely burnt down, and then one was a minor fire kitchen damage. And I'm going to be honest with you, they were actually pretty easy to sell. And the homeowner, here's the really cool part. People always ask me, they go, Rick, how do you assess the damage to it? I go, I don't do that stuff. And whenever a house burns down or there's any type of damage like that, they're going to have insurance. And when they have insurance, guess what? They give you they go out there and they do a detailed estimate quote on what the damages are to the property. They give it to the homeowner. This is information you easily request from the homeowner if they're interested in selling. So you don't have to guess what the damage is. They actually write out an insurance estimate for it, and you have it right in your hand. So that was the part that freaked me out the most. And once I figured that out, it was easy. So I got a lot to go through, so I'm going to keep moving here. Water shutoffs. If you guys have never done this, this is new from a guy who's been in this 21 years. This came up about 5 to 7 years ago. And this is a technique where you have to go to your public utilities. And if you don't have a public utility, they're not going to give you the list. And honestly, this is one of the harder lists to get. But when you get it, keep in mind, guys, when people shut off the water, think about this. What happens when people shut off the water? Nothing goes on in the house. If you can't use the bathroom, you can't take a shower, you can't wash the dishes, that house most likely needs to be sold. And one of the favorite segments of when you have the water shutoffs is the landlord-owned properties, because when that water gets shut off, it's not so much the landlord that's doing it. The tenant's either doing a move out, or they ran out of money, or they're having money problems. And that is a perfect time to reach out to these people. If you have the guts to get this list, and you're going to have to be really persistent, you're going to get resistance on this, but this list is golden. Honestly, it is. Think about this. If the water gets shut off in your house, unless it's an absolute accident and you're screwed up not paying the bill, there is usually going to be a problem. And 9 times out of 10, the house is a great candidate to be sold. And usually it is a distressed situation. Remember, we want to help homeowners out. We're not here to take advantage of them. And the best way to do it is we got to find the clues. So remember, where there's smoke, there's fire. We talk about fire damage properties, water shutoffs, the same thing. Now, you all know about driving for dollars. I love this list. It is, to me, the most powerful list you can do, because you put your visual eyes on it and you are actually going around and finding these properties. And when you see physical signs of high grass and all the things we teach you to look for, you have a huge advantage over a list. Say a guy like me goes out and buys a high equity list of 10,000 people in a certain city, and say you get 500 properties driving that you see distress signs, you have the upper hand. Actually, that list is 100 times more powerful than the list I'm going to get off of any type of list service. And you've got to understand the power. Driving for dollars, a lot of people go, oh, it's so simple. I don't like, why is it so popular? Because it works. I can't tell you how many times I bought a list and I drove by that house probably 10 times. And all I had to do was take a piece of paper just like this and just write it down and go, hey, listen, all I have to do is find houses like this, and I don't have to call 10,000 people. I'd rather you get a list of 500 distressed properties and you simply reach out to those people. Which would you rather do? Contact 500 people that you know have an issue, or reach out to 10,000 random people that you're guessing off of a list? Now, I'm just telling you, I've done them both ways. I will bend over backwards for any type of driving for dollars list. Not only that, let me add you another one. Driving for dollars, mobile and manufactured homes. These are often overlooked. We often talk about single family homes so aggressively. And I'm here to tell you, I love mobile homes. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't love them for a long time. The honest to God truth, I skipped them for 10 years because I thought they were a waste of my time. And here's a little strategy, if you guys can ever come up with it, is in certain parts of the country, real estate is becoming very, very price intensive. So what you do is you notice, like we noticed in an area in Florida where everybody's got prime, you know what I'm talking about. Amazon Prime type of deal. Well, they opened up a massive distribution center in my area. I mean, when I say massive, this thing is like the facility is like a half a mile long. They're bringing in 10,000 employees. And guess what was adjacent to it? Two mobile home park. Guys, when you find stuff like that, you don't even have to even get them at a discount. We went out, we contracted initially 3 properties right off the bat, and we wound up getting 10 under contract. Of those, I think we wound up flipping 7 of them and got quick cash for it, and 3 of them we keep as long-term rentals. Now, here's the really cool part. Before this came about, okay, this was a little bit of a hedge, okay? They were renting for $300, between 3, maybe 500 if you had a double wide. And right now, to date, they are renting for $2,000 a month, okay? And the really cool part is the renters actually basically paid off the investment in less than a year. And so if you guys can find like little things like that, you can get way ahead of it with mobile and manufactured homes. Why? Because the insurance is significantly less. You want to make sure the land's owned underneath of it, and the taxes are very, very minimal. So if I wanted to own, say, a typical home, I've owned a lot of homes in Port St. Lucie. The taxes right now are averaging almost $6,000 to $7,000, where I have a mobile home just to the north of that, and the taxes are only $700 per year. I don't know about you. The home's not as pretty, it's not as sexy as a beautiful single family home, but on paper is the sexiest thing I've ever seen. And if you guys can see trends like that, for the longest time, I ignored mobile homes, and I had the opportunity to buy them for $3,000 to $5,000 forever. I always took them off of my list. I never touched them. I even dealt with manufactured homes. They were much less desirable. And honestly, now we go out and look for them. So what I like to do is enact driving for dollars and find these types of homes. Sometimes you have to start looking outside of single family homes in certain types of markets. I will tell you this. I do love townhomes, especially in Florida, because townhomes, they are more of the affordable housing. I'm still not the biggest fan of condos. They are a pain in the butt. They always have been, and they always will be. But if you can look at manufactured homes and basically mobile homes, as long as you own the land underneath of it, you can usually put a deal together. If you can find a trend like that where there's people moving in there and people need affordable places to live, not everybody can afford $3,000 to $4,000 on a single family home. And why not do a manufactured home or a mobile home? They work. Now, let's get into more of the niche stuff here. I'm going to throw one up here. You probably haven't heard of this 90-day credit profile list. And this is basically, this is tricky. I'm going to be honest with you. So you can go out to a credit bureau data service. I don't know if I'm even using the words right. And basically, they find people that are behind on their credit cards and their mortgage. Now, when I first started, you could actually buy what you call 90-day late mortgages. It's against the law to do that anymore. So what they do is they create an algorithm. And now they combine people's credit cards, their car payments, and their mortgages. And if they combine all 3 of those services, and then like box retail store like JCPenney and stuff like that, when they get late and they get reported to the credit services, which is going to be TransUnion, Equifax, whatever the other one is, you can actually buy these lists. Now, you got to know what you're doing when you buy these lists. Everybody wants to sell you these lists, but I'm going to tell you, these lists, they do work, because when people get behind, they get behind. And usually if they're behind 3 months on their credit card payments, they usually wind up behind late on their mortgage payment, their car payment, their insurance payments. And what they do is they build a credit profile risk. And unfortunately, you guys know everything reported to TransUnion, Equifax, all these services, they sell everything. Honestly, they sell everything. They tell you they don't sell anything. They absolutely sell every piece of data. And what does this cost? It's all over the board. You have to find a reputable list service provider. This is not for the faint of heart, but people like to do this. I personally loved it when it was just 90-day late mortgages. It was extremely valuable. And I could actually go to ListSource back in the day. This is probably 15 years back, and you could buy this data. So they've passed some laws where you can't do that. So they have to combine and build an algorithm. And if you can find a profiling like this, it actually works. You're going to have to take a risk if you do these types of lists. If you're doing well and you're looking for more opportunities, you can go out and find these lists. What you need to do is find reputable brokers. Don't find the guy on Craigslist. Don't find the chick on Fiverr. You're not going to get them through that. There's actually full accredited agencies where you can buy this stuff from, and they're legit. But you got to know what you're talking about. You can do more research online, or you can reach out to me. I can tell you a little bit more about that. Now, let's talk about like an easier one to get. Ready? Arrest record. Talk about these all the time. Listen, I'm talking about people who get arrested. They own real estate and they got to go away and put away for time. The most common offender of this is basically going to be people who have multiple DUIs. This is about 80% of it. I'm going to be honest with you. The other 20% is usually battery and theft. Now, I'm not here to judge a book by its cover. As long as you ain't touching me, I don't care. Keep in mind, most of these people are out on bail waiting to serve their time. I thought this was an anomaly when I first did it, but it actually works. Let me tell you the good side, bad side. The good side is when you get a deal on these, they're actually really, really good. The downside is there's a lot of drama with these. They just go on and on and on. But keep in mind, usually when you're going to jail for 3 to 5 years, it's very hard to ask somebody to watch your house 3 to 5 years because it's probably not going to be there when you get back. So I've bought dozens and dozens of houses like this, and we decided to on purpose comb the arrest records, basically cross-reference, see if they own property in that county, and then we just reach out to them. I found cold calling by far to be the most effective, and then either following up with a letter or just doing direct mail. Either one of them works. Next one of my favorite little niche lists that just works phenomenally. It's a pain in the butt to do, but this is what we do in wholesaling. We have to find problems. So no, I don't want you to go to garage sales and shop everything. I'm here to tell you a garage sale list simply works like this. You find people that are having a garage sale. How do you find them? In the old days, it was always Craigslist. Today, much more on Facebook Marketplace, any type of Facebook groups. Still Craigslist. And then sometimes your city and county has places where they actually have to register their garage sales, but most of them do it illegally. And then basically when they have a garage sale, I'm going to cross-reference it and see who the owner of that property is. Now, here's the key. I'm looking for people that are absentee owners, which means they're landlords. When they're landlords, that means they're tenants having a garage sale, which probably means they're having a midnight move-out sale. And usually by cold calling or mailing to that prospect, you can break the news to them. They go, what? And say, listen, I see you're having a garage sale at your property. And I start the conversation off of that. My goal is to surprise the landlord and let him know and fill him in on key information on letting him know, hey, I didn't know you're having a garage sale. I want to know more about it. And then he goes, what do you mean I'm having a garage sale? I go, well, I drove by there. Yeah, there was a bunch of people and furniture out in the yard. It gets them fired up. But remember, you just basically let the cat out of the bag, that letting them know that their tenant's moving out. You did them a favor. Hopefully you can connect the bridge, because usually when the house is vacant, it's not a good thing. And if they're ever going to sell it, it's when the tenant moves out because they're behind on rents. They've usually trashed the property. And guys, this happens all the time. And how do you do it? You simply you have to cross-reference the garage sale list, find the absentee owner, and then basically reach out, cold call them, or you can send them mail, but you got to do it fast if you're going to do it via mail. And then basically the element of surprise is what really catapults to the relationship. It works, guys. People do it all the time. They want to get money and move from one property to the next. It works. Now, you could do regular garage sales. The ones you want to avoid are the chronic garage sale people. Yes, there's people that just do garage sales all day long. You want to avoid those people like the plague. Now, people always ask me, hey, Rick, what can we do with inside of like PropStream to find some of these lists? Here's my favorite list I'm going to do within listoria.com. I love the vacant properties. I pull it once every 90 days. That's it. Like I'm not pulling it every month. You know why? Because the list doesn't change that much, at least in the markets I service. Maybe it's a little bit different in your market, and you can kind of share with me which one works the best for you on that one. But I love vacant properties. Now, the problem is what you want to do is these are pre-filters set within PropStream. So it's really, really simple. You can put whatever filters you want onto it. And what you want to do is filter the ones off market, because I don't want to deal with realtors when I do this. You guys know how I feel about realtors. It's just a waste of time on a good wholesale deal. The last thing I want to do is fight through a realtor on a vacant property. So you're going to find some of them. There's not much you can do about it. The list is not perfect, but it works really, really well. And then the next one is going to be the pre-probates. Once again, this is inside of PropStream in listrei.com. And you just go down the filter section and you pull down pre-probates. And people are always asking me, Rick, what are pre-probates? It's simple, guys. It's basically queuing off of a death certificate and cross-referencing to see if they own property within that county. And if they do, then that is a pre-probate. It doesn't mean it's going to be a probate. It just means it has a high likelihood of something transferring with that property, either through a probate or some sort of legal maneuver. Depends on how the property is owned. And I'm going to be honest with you, not every property is going to go through probate. You've got to understand that. Actually, only 50% of properties actually go through probate. Some go through trust. Some are set up ahead of time. Basically, if the joint writes with survivorship, when two people are married, if it's set up correctly, they actually get pulled out of probate, but they got to file a piece of paperwork at the courthouse to do that. Once again, this is why I like to pull this. And once again, I'm going to pull this list probably once every 90 days because you're going to see a lot of repetition on this list. And for that reason, you want to understand how that works. So that is a summation of the lists that I like that are working now. And don't get me wrong, I could sit here and go on 4 hours on all the different types of lists. I just try to mix this up so you guys get different ideas on ways that you can do this.